Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Oh, shit, that's shit. Hang on. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Blur's Day. Good afternoon. And this is the Expansive podcast coming live. Not really, it's recorded from Chicago. It is 8 a.m. here. Erik is in Cape Town. It is 4 p.m. there. He's about to go on a Mexican trip. And let me tell you something that's really interesting is trying to figure out how to connect Erik and my schedule now that he's in Mexico, and I don't know where I'm going to be. And so now trying to fine tune schedules with Robin, with Erik, with me. I mean, you need a PhD just to get this sorted, but I imagine AI will have it sorted soon. But we're very, very grateful that you're here joining us again this week. Wonderful to have you. Erik and I haven't been on the pod together for a bit. So great conversation ahead of us. And hello, Erik. How are you, my man?
Hey, brother. Yeah, I'm good, man. I can't believe it's been 3 weeks since we've recorded. So super excited to get stuck into some catching up really with you. I feel like we haven't had a bit of a good laugh and a chat for a while.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So let's get stuck in.
Jeez, so
it's
tired,
that morning. Yeah. No, I'm so tired.
Yeah, no, good.
So tired. You know what it is? It's like a week of jet lag sleeping. It's a week of jet lag. It's a week of, you know, what usually happens is when you're on this side of the world, you fall asleep at 6 p.m. because it's like 2 a.m. where you come from. And then you're up at 11. And now you're like, hang on a second. Now I've got to like sleep until 6. Oh my God. And this has happened the whole week. So eventually you're like, oh my God. And then you got to wake up, you got to perform, you got to travel, you got to pack, you got to get an Uber, you got to pop. You know what it reminds me of is they in the tennis world, they talk about how if you're not in the top 20, you're eating salty cracks. You know, you're poor. Yes. You can't afford shit until you reach that top 20. And then when you're in the top 20, you're a multi-gazillionaire. And it's like, it feels like I'm outside of that top 20 and I'm grinding it. You know, I'm catching my own Ubers. I'm like, I got to sort out my own clothes to get washed. I'm like, jeez, these things, eh? But anyway, it's a work in progress. You know?
Well, having the absolute best financial year you've had in your entire career.
Absolutely, that is correct. Yes. But also, I'm now in a new market where I'm nobody again. No, remember we spoke about this last time. Like,
no.
Yes. It's starting from scratch again. But it's such a jewel. It's so lekker, so nice seeing so many cities. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's the same with the golfers. I was speaking to a dude the other day, and he was like, if you aren't like one of the top 20 golfers in the country, then you are literally just clubbing your fees together in order to get to tournaments, to live in a commune with other golfers. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's where we're at. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, yesterday I started that documentary series, My Life as a Lab, and what was about AI and artists, and because there's so much art around Chicago, so we went to many different little art installations, and we spoke about ethics and what it means to be an artist in the age of AI. Yeah. But truly, what it does mean, it means that if you're not exceptional, you won't stand out. There's just too much noise, too much option, and if you think about, like, the relation that I made was, if you think about restaurants and what will happen over the next 5 years, you'll have AI robot restaurants that will be excellent. The food will be brilliant. It will be cheap. It will be fresh. Almost probably be grown on the premises, many of the vegetables, because that's how AI would be able to do things for us, right? And who will be the chefs that we will go and visit? Only the best. There won't be average chefs. You won't like go to a human chef unless that human chef is just... So actually what it's doing to us as human beings, it's forcing genius. If you don't have access to your genius, you have nothing. You won't stand out the crowd. And so it's forcing us to access this incredible version of ourselves that the Industrial Revolution never gave us access to, you know?
I was listening to that Eric Schmidt interview, the ex-CEO of Google, the other day. And he said something interesting, because obviously we know that artificial intelligence is already operating at the IQ of the smartest people in the world. And we know that it's going to keep getting better and smarter over time. And so what happens, like, if you are like leading a machine that's way smarter than you, or if you're someone like who's quite average, but you are trying to instruct something that is way smarter than you, what ends up happening is like, it's a kind of weird space that you find yourself in. And so Stephen was saying to him, well, like, don't you then just kind of outsource everything to the machine because it's so much smarter than you? And he had a good point. He said, yes, like a lot of the stuff then gets automated because it can figure out way more things than you. The one thing that it can't substitute from you just yet is the taste that you have, is the judgment that you have. And so that's ultimately what we come to you for. And when you think of art, when you think of food, like, what is it that makes a great chef a great chef? It's their taste. And I don't mean like their physical taste. It's how they pair things together. It's the vision they have for how their restaurant tells a story. That is still ultimately like what we will go to humans for, is that taste and that judgment.
Well, I think it's very well said. And I think another way of saying that is your uniqueness.
Yes.
It's the way you uniquely see the world and connect the dots that will get you to stand out, like, more than anything else. And there was this excellent book written a few years ago. It's called Foresight. I think it was by, who's that guy? John Sonnet.
I know an author. I know an author.
I know, anonymous author. And what he was trying to say in that book was, until you have discovered your ability to have foresight into your unique skill, you have nothing that helps you stand out. And so finding that gives you this incredible like jump and leap into the future, not worried about AI that's going to take away rudimentary logical thinking. If you're stuck in rudimentary mechanical logical thinking, yes, AI is incredibly scary. But yeah, I just think in the long run, it's going to help us really evolve, really evolve into the best versions of humans that we can be. So yeah, exciting to be here in Chicago. The thing with Chicago, yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, go for it. Chicago.
So much can be told about the energy of a city through its architecture. And traveling around the world, architecture is such a nuanced expression of the culture. And if you think about like Bali, think about how everything is open, and think about how everything is soft, and it's so Bali. And then you go to Kuwait, and Kuwait has got these buildings that are monolith, like almost you can't see them from the outside. The houses are just walls upon walls. And then if you think about the culture, it's quite private. It's quite like secluded, like nobody knows what's going on in our lives. And then you come to Chicago, and dude, the buildings are incredibly confident, like huge, bigger than big, like so like expressive of who we think we are. And yesterday, the cameraman was taking me past a building that, when it got built, was the biggest building square foot by square foot in the world. And I think it was in the 1930s or 40s, somewhere around there. And you think about that city, the city peaking at that level, like so confident about who it is and what it's about. And let me tell you something, dude, it is spotless. The city is, I have not seen one piece of rubbish. And I was saying to him, I was like, it's unbelievable. It feels like New York, but polite because it's Midwestern, and clean. And he said, you know why? I was like, why? He said, we have alleyways, and all the rubbish is in the alleyways. In New York, they have no alleyways. So all the rubbish is on the streets. And I was like, whoa, I never actually even thought about that. But Chicago's been, I would hazard to say, one of the most beautiful, stunning cities I have ever visited. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm really blown away by it.
Listen, and just to give all the listeners a bit of context, because I was looking at the recordings that we've done, and we actually haven't done a recording together for about 3 weeks. It was, we did a recording, and then it was you and Rob's, and then it was myself and Van from Sift Analytics. So we haven't actually spoken in quite a bit on the pod. And so at the moment, you are squarely in a tour, like an EO tour, speaking tour. So this is you're doing 6 cities, right? And then this is your third one, I think.
6 cities. I've already done the third one. I've done Houston, New Orleans, and St. Louis. And I'm now in Chicago for the weekend to film that documentary. And next week I move on to, I don't know where. I haven't figured it out yet. Nebraska, Connecticut, somewhere else. It's been going exceptionally well. Such warm, such fantastic people. You know, anybody who is any part of those talks, thank you so much for being so warm and so engaging. And there's a lot to be said about the Midwestern warmth and hospitality. And it's so beautiful, man. I have a friend called Austin from Texas. So warm, so generous, like really go out of their way. And so really I've had a wonderful 3-city tour so far. I'm looking forward to the next 3 cities. I've had 2 standing ovations out of 3 talks, which is really awesome. And I only say this to show off.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
No other reason whatsoever.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. You know, people take on this lofty idea online. Yesterday, I got a standing ovation. I don't say this to show off. I say this because the journey I've taken. Shut up. You're just telling us because you're showing off. And so, yes, here I am showing off. Just want to show off.
And
thank you. Pleasure. Yes, exactly.
Listen,
what a cool thing.
I think it also says a lot about Entrepreneurs Organization. You know, like we've been doing lots of talks for them this year. And I think what's been incredible for me about these talks is that people really show up hungry to learn. And because it's mostly like a very young demographic, I feel like they're also quite in touch with what's happening around them. They want to figure it out. It's important, obviously, that they figure it out. You know, like you're still going to be on this planet for quite some time, and your world is changing so dramatically in front of you at this point in time. You're almost like, I actually, I posted this video earlier this week of this old lady that I saw. She was, it's such a cute video actually to go and watch. But she's probably like 80,
I saw
90,
it.
And
her
daughter gives her these Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and so she says, Meta, what is the weather going to be like in Fort Lauderdale or something like that? And then obviously, like, so the Meta glasses can now speak to you, I think, through bone conduction in the handles of the glasses. And so she hears it speaking to her and giving her the weather, and then she goes, son of a bitch, I don't know what's happening in this world anymore. And I was like, when I see that, but the way she says it, you know, it's like, it's cute. And and I look at that, I'm like, I think all of us feel like that at this stage. Like, like the world is just moving so quickly. Like I wake up and perpetually look at it and go, geez, I actually don't know like where we are going and what's happening around us, you know. And all we want is to try and figure things out. And that's the only real way forward, is that you have to just adopt this posture that I'm here to just continuously figure things out. I'm here to continuously learn, continuously adapt. And that's the only posture. The alternative posture would be certainty.
Death.
And that doesn't exist. When I spoke for a bunch of CAs earlier in the week, and one of the questions, and I'm sure you get this question all the time, is but how will CAs look like in like the next 2 or 3 years? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's not the right question to be asking, because what you are trying to do is you are trying to get certainty. You are trying to, for me, you are hoping that I'll tell you, this is what it's going to look like. So you can go, oh, okay, I'm safe, number one.
Yeah.
And number two is, oh, this is what I need to do in order to make sure that I'm okay in that world. No one can tell you what that world's going to look like. And if they do, then they are selling something off the back of it. All we can tell you is that it's going to look different, and you need to figure out how you are going to remain relevant and valuable in such a world.
Look, it's not what you know, it's how you behave. And that's very hard for people. You've never been celebrated for how you behave. And so, yes, Entrepreneurs Organization have just already got a bunch of characters in there that are against the grind. They're against the structure of corporates. That's why they're entrepreneurs. And so in that energy, they're always keen to want to be learning something new, because they already buck the system. Corporates are stuck a little bit more because they're in the system that's being disrupted right in front of our eyes. But also, most importantly, I think what happens with the EO crew is they can ask deep private questions, whereas in corporates you've got HR there, so they can't really ask the deep questions. So there's a facade in corporations that you have to play this rule game, whereas in entrepreneurs and YPO organizations there's just none of that. They go straight deep into the sort of hyper personalized options. So yeah, it's been wonderful, and the more I spend time with this crew, the more I start meeting the same people all around the world, and they're just doing such exciting things. They're just expressing themselves in such different ways. So yeah, it's been wonderful, and what a privilege. And actually now what I've started doing is every time I speak for EO, I always thank them and say thank you. I've seen so many parts of the world because of you. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity just to go and see that. And you are on your way to Mexico again, to go and see another part of the world. And you're going to a place called Merida, which is awesome. Merida. And places that Merida. You and I would Oh, you're not? I thought you said you were. Or did you go last time?
No, I'm doing Guadalajara. And then from there, I'm going to Mexico City. And then from there, I'm going to Querétaro. And then from there, I'm going to Cancun.
Oh, okay. And Mexico City is the number one growing digital nomad city in the world. And I am still waiting to hear somebody tell me Mexico City is not cool. Everybody I speak to is like, Mexico City is the best city. Mexico City is the best city. I'm like, geez, what? I got to get there. It's like everybody speaks so highly of it. So yeah, well, and the Mexican people, my God.
It's going to be amazing.
Maybe some of the nicest people in the world, man. Oh, they're such delicious people, man. They're so awesome. So warm. Lucky us.
Yeah, man.
Lucky us.
Listen, just on the trend of AI. So I was speaking to a guy about 4 weeks ago, and he's a salesman in a company, and we were talking about artificial intelligence. I said to him, what's happening in your company? How are you guys busy adopting it? And he got this like look on his face, and he's like, no. When I see that stuff, I prefer not to engage. And I was like, what do you mean you don't engage? She's like, no, whenever I see it, like it makes me feel quite anxious and fearful.
Yeah.
So I said to him, so your response to that fear is to rather just not engage. So like at what point then would you engage? And I said to him, like, just imagine for a moment in time, like that, you are competing with another salesman, and your strategy is that for the next year, you are going to know artificial intelligence exists, but you're not going to engage with it at all. And this other one might be trying some new tools to see how it helps with customer service or his own sales process, maybe using ChatGPT as a coach, maybe finding out ways to use video in innovative ways to sell more. And he's just doing this in small increments over time. Over the course of a week or a month, it makes no difference. But over the course of a year, you guys now have, completely different values in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that really like the way that you want to like live your life? Is that, when
show up,
like threatens you a little bit, that you're going to step away? And it made me so acutely aware that like we tend to think people see new tools like artificial intelligence and they'll jump onto it because it's the hype. And like we've seen ChatGPT adoption, like when we saw that initial curve, it was very steep. Like ChatGPT got adopted faster than things like WhatsApp, for example. But yet still, like you find so many people that are so slow to adopt this technology and to
99% of the human population aren't doing it, Erik.
Yeah, because
9%,
not of technical know-how, but because like there's an emotion for them that I'm taking action on this. And I keep saying this in all my talks lately, that like the biggest unlock, if you want to better understand change, is to understand that change is mostly an emotional process. So one last thing AI related is, did you see Chegg and their monumental crash over the past few weeks?
Who? Chegg.
Chegg, yeah.
I don't know. What, spell that? I don't know. Chegg.
Chegg. Chegg is a company that...
Please tell me, yeah?
Yeah, they started in 2006, and they are a student tutoring company. So what they would do is they would lend out textbooks, they would help with exam and homework assignments, all that kind of prep. And you would subscribe to them for a fee. And so obviously since ChatGPT has come out, and now you can access all of those services for free, essentially. Like you can go on ChatGPT and it'll help you with all your homework and all your exams and all that.
Yeah.
And so as a result, Chegg has lost 99% of their stock value. And you might think, well, how much is that really? Well, they've lost $14.5 billion in stock value.
Jesus.
And now they're trying to figure out, well, what is the next step? Like, where do they go from here?
Yeah.
And like, I think where they're sort of pivoting into is to be a student counseling service.
Oh,
but it's such a tough one, right? Because this is what I keep thinking, like where organizations are having a really difficult time, is that there's a part of like looking to the future, which is, okay, we can look to the past and we can go, I'll add 10% or 20%, so we did X amount of revenue last year. This year we want to do X amount of revenue plus 15, 20, 30%, whatever it may be. And in some ways, it's quite easy to go, okay, like that is the direction we're moving towards. That's what we want to accomplish. But then there's a much harder part, which is, what if like what you're doing isn't relevant in the future? Like who or what are you becoming then? Like what does that X look like for you then? Because for them, like they've even gone and built an internal artificial intelligence system. So it's not like they were sleeping on AI. They saw it come out, they integrated it into their system. It just so happens that the systems around them kind of make them redundant. And so I think, irrespectively of what you're doing, some companies will just be made redundant. Others will be able to pivot their way out. But I think for some people, like it's going to be really hard to figure out what X is. Like, what is the goal of, or the way that you look in the future as a company? Because you might not know. Again, it's that uncertainty. Like you don't actually know what you're going to look like, especially when other companies are taking up your core proposition.
Well, it's a very good insight, because no matter how well you use AI, your industry itself might be becoming commoditized. And that's the big problem, is that if you're in transportation, for example, you can use as many tomorrow teams and AI systems and strategies. Transportation is going the same route that music went. And again, if you're a music company, what are you doing? You're not really making a lot of money, because it's been digitized and demonetized and democratized. And so communication, same thing. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are with AI, communication's gone. It's not a money-making thing anymore. So what's happening is that industry after industry is going through this process of zero marginal cost society. Whereas technology starts to improve, costs of that service start to go into zero. And so, yes, like this tutoring, there's no money in education. I think the future of education is AI driven, and the future of many industries is AI driven. So that, like accountants, for example, and all our accountant friends listening to this, realize that what you do is highly intellectual and highly repetitive. And if it's highly intellectual and hyper repetitive, that's on its way out, because it used to be just menial repetitive tasks. Now it's becoming highly intelligent repetitive tasks. And so it doesn't matter how many tomorrow teams you have, that service as a service itself is on its way out. So yes, I was working with a car company in Dubai, and I was explaining, and they were asking me questions about tomorrow teams and this sort of thing. And I said, look, to be honest with you, I don't think a tomorrow team is going to help you. I think what you have to do is you have to start looking at other industries that are growing and start to bring solutions to other industries. Your existing industry is on its way out. It's diminishing in profit. And if you can see this, like for example, think about the writer's strike in California. Why did they do a strike? Because they don't want Hollywood to use AI to write scripts. It was the same panic when Napster got released, and people were panicking that Napster was going to share music for free. The panic tells you exactly where the problem is and how it's going to unfold that whole sector. So them just making laws that you can't use AI shows you exactly that. The minute they start using AI, it's like using electricity in a washing machine. There's no comparison. You can't even touch it. So instead of figuring out what else to do, what you're trying to do is defend your past. You know who else did this? In South Africa, there's a company called DSTV, and they're like the for our friends who don't live in South Africa, they're like a cable. And then when Netflix started to arrive in the country, they started creating so much noise that it's unfair. Well, no, they just didn't want to evolve. So what do? Is they try and create legislation to protect them. And that's only a matter of time for that legislation not to be able to protect you, because, that's a cowardly way to go about actually preempting the future. So yeah, it's a very good point to bring up when you're speaking about strategy in organizations.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also just a cautionary tale, is that even though you might feel like you are trying to pivot internally, like you were just saying, like some industries will just become defunct over time. And so like the smarter move isn't to try and just pivot inside of it, but it's to actually start looking outside of it, which is so difficult to do. I mean, like this company, for example, have been around since 2006. So like they're almost 20 years old. And then like within... And I think they actually had a bit of a boost during COVID, obviously. And so like you feel like, okay, you're actually picking up momentum. And then this tool comes out like ChatGPT, and all of a sudden they bled 500,000 paying customers. 500,000 paying customers. And I mean, it makes sense. Like of course, and especially because you're in a student market, so it's also a cost-sensitive market. And so, of course, they'll rather switch to ChatGPT. And then you have to think, well, these tools are just like proliferating, and they'll keep becoming better and stronger, and they'll keep becoming cheaper. And so they'll be more and more accessible.
Yeah. I watched an amazing documentary on the plane, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was about the financial system. And they were explaining that nobody would be able to pay tax if there wasn't money already in the system. Like, what would you pay tax with if there was no money? And so how they started off governments many years ago is they flooded the market with money. And once people started to use money, then started to say to them, now we're going to tax you. And then if you don't pay your tax, we're going to put you in jail. And so the whole point of the documentary was, if the government has already flooded the market with money, why are they charging us tax if they can just print more money? What is the point of tax when the government, the person who's creating the money is now charging you, making you work, and then charging you 50% of whatever you're making to give back to the government or the people who actually printed the money in the first place? And then if you think about universities, what they do is they charge you to put you into debt so that you owe them money, then to go work in the corporates to pay the debt back and the tax back, so that and then you buy a home, then you have to pay the loan interest back. And then you're caught up in the cycle that is just continuously enslaving you in many ways. And then you think about it, why do students jump? Because the whole thing is rigged so that when there's another option of ChatGPT helping you for free, of course I'm going to jump. And anything that has got this ridiculous cost attached to it that AI is taking away and bringing this hyper abundance to us falls away. And so this documentary just really opened my eyes up of how we've been duped for so very long, and we didn't even realize it, and they were interviewing these economists. They're asking these questions like, so where does the money come from, and why do we need to pay tax? And none of them could answer it. Like, we're talking about smart, like lecture professor people that have never been allowed to ask that question or even made to think about it. So you've been educated within the system, don't ask any bigger questions. And so I think AI is going to start to give us these opportunities to realize that these things that have been enslaving us. And the other one is Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is the only financial system available right now that you can transfer money that is not going to be touched by the governments. And if you think about land and money, if you got dollars or rands or any currency, the government can confiscate it from you. The land, they can confiscate it from you, which means that the land and the money is not actually yours, it's the government's. With Bitcoin, it's yours. There's nobody can come and take it. It's not connected to anything. And so if we start to see what's going on here, and then 3 weeks ago, we had the rise of Goatsy Maximus, which is this meme coin that started to grow and is worth, I don't know, was $700 million, created by AI through chat rooms, through Twitter. And so now what you have is you have AI creating multi-$100 million meme coins with really zero effort, zero hard work. And so you get to understand, what is money valued at? What are we actually doing here? Because we used to think hard work equals money, but it really doesn't, because AI is now proving it doesn't. So this whole concept, when you think about education, you think about finances, you think about what AI is doing, it's awakening us to systems that we have been part of, that we've never actually known that we've been part of.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. I think on that note, I'd like to segue to one last thing, and maybe you can tell people a bit more about it. But I think we've kind of teased at the fact that we have a book coming out as The Expansive, but I don't know if we've really spoken about it much on the pod. And I thought maybe today we could kind of end this one giving people a bit of a glimpse into what is to come in 2025.
Go ahead, brother. Kick it off, my friend.
So the podcast is now, I think, 200 and must be about 28 episodes deep. And I think we've had this idea for about 2 years where we thought what would be amazing is to take the best of the podcast and to combine all the best episodes into a book. And so finally, this year, we have actioned that. And together with an incredible ghostwriter, Corin, together with artificial intelligence, together with 9,000 minutes of audio from the podcast, we have now created a book. And that book will be available in 2025. So hopefully Jan, Feb launch date. And I think it's going to be an incredible book because it has a very reflective component to it, which is really what The Expansive is about. Like, it's never been about just regurgitating or vomiting content out of people. It's always been to provide a reflection point for how can you live a more expansive life, be more expansive in your business. And so what the book aims to do is to provide you with 52 reflection points. So that's one per week that you can read through and that you can then kind of slow down with and really just contemplate for the week. And I think if you can do that over the course of a year, you'll have a very different life. You'll definitely have a more expansive life. And it's really taken all of the best insights from the pod and given it to you in text format. So I'm super excited about this book coming out. What did I miss about this, John? What did I miss in the sales pitch?
Please come and join us for our book launches in Dubai, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. We are planning them. It's going to be fun getting back onto the road and launching a book. The last time I did that was 3-4 years ago. And it'll be extra fun, obviously, with you for us to be able to answer any sort of questions. And also, we have a lot of people that listen to the pod, and then it could be like almost a physical manifestation of listening to the pod into the book. And I think the best way to describe this book is a truly modern book. It's spoken word, curated by a human, and then fine-tuned by AI. And I like that sort of combination of sort of a multi-dimensional book. And also, I think, I was watching something yesterday, and it said the number one flex in a world of speed is slowing yourself down to read a book. And I thought to myself, wow. And they said the number one flex right now is sitting in a coffee shop in public, reading your book. And it shows elegance and class, not part of the rat race of dopamine scavenging humans. True, and I was like, oh my God, how has that changed? All of a sudden, you're like, what? Books are going to be back in fashion? Like, it's going to be not even just back in fashion, a status symbol to say I read a book, not listened to a book. I was like, wow, are we having a turning back away from technology? And in fact, the cameraman yesterday was saying to me, he said, you know what's happening with cell phones? And I'm starting to see it. He says, we've had cell phones for the last 10, 15 years, and people are getting bored of the same dopamine hits, it's like we're doing it because we kind of stuck in it, but it's boring. So it's really just boring. So we are seeming to have a different awakening when it comes to this sort of content and this sort of information. So excited to be launching the book with you, Erik. It's been a wonderful sort of 4 years together, and this will be a nice pivot and launch, and hopefully another bestseller under both our belts. And also for you to come into Dubai and to be introduced to the Dubai market, and for the Dubai market to hear what you have to say. So really looking forward to that. And one other thing that I want to bring up is I would love everybody on the pod to please cast a vote for me. I was online 4 nights ago. I was just looking through LinkedIn, and some guy, I don't know who he is.
Is this the world's sexiest man thing again? Is this where you're going now with this?
No, the world's best futurist, not sexiest man.
Okay.
And am I part of the sexiest man as well? Another one. I can't believe it. These lists just keep coming at me. I can't believe it. Tell me about the sexiest one, Erik. I don't know about this one. No, and if there isn't one, create it and put me on top, please.
It was a total April Fool's thing that I found from earlier in the year.
So I was watching this guy on LinkedIn, and he was like, thank you so much for being nominated in world's 30 top gurus. And they have like 30 gurus from around the world in leadership and teamwork and futurists and all sorts of different things. I never knew this company existed. And this guy was like, please vote for me. So I was like, that's interesting. And also quietly inside my head, I was like, who's this Muppet? Why am I not on the list? And that's in my own head quietly, because that's the way my ego works, like all of us. And so I went onto the list, and my God, I was on the list. I was like, what? How did I didn't even know I was on this list. This is unbelievable. So I post online, please go vote for me because I'm up against my heroes, which are my heroes in the futurist world. And I wouldn't say I'm a futurist. I think consciousness plays a big part of it. And I think a lot of those speakers don't speak about consciousness, which I think is really a big part of our future, which they're missing. But either way, so I put it out and I put it out for people to vote. So we'll put it in our show notes. If you can please go and vote, it'd be really, really appreciated. And then my friend Erik messages me. And now you got to know Erik's character. He's very opposite to me. I liked when I discover something, I can't wait to tell somebody because that's just my excitement bubbling over. Erik is very strategic in his communication. So I get a message and it's like, bro. I'm like, that's all it is, bro. I'm like, what's up? It's like, I want to show you something. I'm like, okay, what? So then he starts taking me on this journey back onto the list of global gurus. And he's showing me now very slowly. And I'm so impatient. I'm like, Erik, what's wrong with you, bro? Why are you doing this? Just tell me what you're showing me. Erik then takes me to the list of the top 30 futurists from 2024. This voting is for 2025. And I'm number 10 in 2024. I had no idea I was in the top 10 best futurists in the world. And Erik's like, have you seen that you're in the top 10? I'm like, I had no idea. And it was an amazing feeling to feel that recognition from a platform that's highly regarded, that I had no idea, that I have not marketed at all, that I have not had part of my bio. I've nothing. I've done nothing with it. And so I had the most fascinating week in seeing this. And I wrote about this. And this might seem a little bit out there and a little bit esoteric, so just bear with me. I wrote a piece today about how time is dynamic. It's not linear. In other words, and it's part of my new book, Future Memories, and it's about the idea that when you change your present moment and your beliefs in the present moment, your past and your future change at the same time. And this concept comes from the idea that time is not in a straight line, it's spiraling. Everything that's happening ahead of us and behind us has already happened in the quantum field. And again, this is really cutting edge neuroscience, quantum science ideology, where we have always been trained into is the linear fashion of time, whereas we are just waiting for time to happen, whereas in quantum science, it tells you something totally different. And the reflection point I have here is that over the last 6 months to a year, my internal dialogue has become a lot more confident about what I do. I feel a lot more settled in what I do. And as I start to feel this momentum inside me build about my own confidence, I get told about a top 10 list that I was on that I had no idea about. And I think, and again, this sounds a little bit esoteric, but just bear with me, stay with me, is that when you change your current belief system, your past changes. Not just your future, your past, because time is dynamic. It's not linear. And figuring this out this week has been such an amazing surprise because I felt so much confidence in what I'm speaking about, and the audience members are giving me this feedback that yes, this is exactly what they need to know and need to hear. And some of them have said they've never heard anything like this before, which is exactly what I'm trying to get right and across to the audiences. And with my new book, Future Memories, I'm trying to write something that corporations and people on the street can understand and grapple with, and to realize that your past and your future are determined by your present. And so your present is both a projector and a receiver. You're both projecting and receiving on a continuous basis. And so, yes, this is a bit way out there, but this is really what we're going to start to understand about time and how it actually works.
Yeah, I'd love for us to do an episode on that when the time is right, because I think it's a fascinating concept. And apart from that, congrats on the nomination, dude, obviously, and congrats on already be on the list, and congrats for missing out on using that as marketing for an entire year.
Damn it.
An entire year for having that in your bio.
Oh my God.
Congrats for doing very well nonetheless.
Thank you.
And yes, please, as a reminder, we'll make sure this is in the show notes as well. Head out and make sure to cast a vote for John. It's a very quick process, and we'll make sure to link to it so you can get to it. Yeah, dude, well done. I look forward to chatting to you again soon. I'm off to Mexico tomorrow, and then I think we need to...
Mexico!
It's been interesting trying to align timelines for the recordings. So we'll hopefully do a recording while we're on the road. And then otherwise, I think we have 2 or so more in the bag for the year. Then we'll replay some of the best episodes from the year. And then 2025. Cheers. We are
Erik,
there.
Have fun carrying your mic with you and doing and having fun adding that to your luggage. That's the only reason I want you to be thinking we're going to record. I'm not going to record. I'm just going to make you carry that mic around with you, the painful mic. But for anybody who's listening to this, I've tried 3 or 4 different mics, all trying to be smaller mics, but none of them work. So size does matter.
Yeah,
well, it's great, man. Thanks so much for this great episode. And for everybody listening, thank you so much all for joining us again this week at The Expansive. It's always wonderful to have you all with us. And until next week, stay expansive, be expansive, and ask expansive questions. That's what I keep finding myself doing, is asking just deeper questions to try and expand my understanding of my power and the opportunity to not move into the future, but actually create it. And this is becoming more and more obvious to me as we evolve. So it's really exciting to be as expansive with you, Erik, as it is with all our listeners.